Hi, everyone. I hope that this message finds you well. Wishing you a good Erev Shabbos. As we record this message, this YouTube sermon, virtual drasha for this week, there's a lot of pain, a lot of anger, a lot of tragedy in our country right now. To be very frank with you, I don't think that I have the words to adequately describe how frustrated, how sad it is to witness these images that many of us have been exposed to over the last 24 hours. Opening my newspaper this morning, reading and seeing about what occurred, it's very difficult for me to digest, and I'm sure for many of you as well, what is going on right now as we speak. When we say our prayers every day, at the very least, we cannot be callous. We have to say additional Tehillim, additional Psalms. And this week, we will say the prayer for the government with extra concentration. And we hope that all of you, whether you are praying with us or from your own homes, will call out to God, beseeching the Almighty for divine assistance during this time of great confusion. Violence is anathema. It is evil. It is against the Torah's ways. Torah's ways are ways of pleasantness. I'll have more to say at a future date, but for now, let us turn to our Sedra. Indeed, this week's Parsha Shemot, is about a transition of power. As a new Paro, or a conveniently forgetful Paro, a new ruler, a new way of thinking, a new atmosphere overcomes and overwhelms the people of Egypt as they look to subjugate, to put down, to enslave one of the more successful demographics, communities in their country, our ancestors, the Jewish people. What happened? What transpired? We know that the Jewish people are diminutive in size. We are but a small people. We exist to a great extent by way of the mercy of the Almighty. And certainly our existence and continuity is nothing short of miraculous. So what happened here in our Parsha? In the sense, this idea was prepared prior to the events yesterday, but I do believe the Torah always offers a better way forward with regards to understanding that which is taking place in our world. And we look at our Sedra, and we see the Jewish people, they themselves have changed in terms of their worthiness. The generations of Jews in Egypt, they came and went. And of course, the Jewish people now at the end of our Parsha were now not just lower down on the totem pole and oppressed, but they were made into slave laborers. But right prior to that, they were high up on the totem pole. The Jewish people, their income was significant. And for whatever reason, the envy was there. The anti-Semitism was there. The Kli Yakar, famous 16th century classic commentator. He says, look at what concerned the Egyptian people. Look at what is said by Yerbu v'yatzmu, that they increased in number. And somehow, when we increased in size, our population, the yatzmu b'mod b'od, and our portfolios increased as well, and our financial clout increased as well, the Egyptian people felt that they needed to cut us down to size. But our physical expansion, in terms of our population, in terms of our wealth, that is what we are told in the Parsha, which we need to understand in terms of what immediately preceded the laws, the institutional racism against the Jewish people. We're told to read the Shema, where every day we read V'chol ma'odecha, multiple times a day. We're supposed to serve God, not just with our bodies, but also with our bank accounts. And Paro understood that perhaps as a people we had become more overly material, and he sought to exploit that for his own advantage. Special taxes were made, something which is quite reminiscent for us in modern times in terms of the 1930s. He wanted to weaken the Jewish people before they became any stronger. And the bigger issue though was we had begun to identify more with our wealth than with our spiritual well-being. Judaism uniquely believes that material resources are not bad. On the contrary, they are good. But when it becomes a part of our definition, when it becomes part of what we promote and what we project about ourselves, and if the materialism provides us with our sense of confidence or sense of self, then that's when it becomes problematic and we are less worthy of the divine protection that has guided us for thousands of years. So at that point, we became susceptible to suspicion because we had left the guidance of Yaakov, of Yosef, the Jewish leadership at that time. So the commentary that we're analyzing today, the Kli Yakar, elaborates that when we read that Yosef was not remembered, in other words, not remembered for his heroism, not remembered for his excellent political leadership, through his years of guiding the Egyptian people through the turmoil that was the famine. So it means that Egypt had trusted Yosef and Yosef's followers, but we no longer resembled Yosef. We no longer resembled the Jewish people and the community that lived under Yosef. We didn't have those scruples, and therefore we were seen by Egyptians as a threat, and they saw that we focused on resources and that they, because of the anti-Semitism that they had, took that to mean that we were after their resources. And then, of course, the great violence and evil of the bondage then followed. And so we learn about what to focus on and how to view ourselves and what our values really are in terms of our creation here as it were, as the nation formed in Egypt. The commentary further explains that it was the Egyptian advisors of Paro who noticed the change in Jewish behavior as we slowly became more a part of Egyptian society and seemed to be more interested in the materials within Egyptian society. And they understood that our success through Yosef happened to be a part of, connected to a spiritual righteousness. So when we read the words this week, a Rabbi Atzumimenu, they were scared, and all these conspiracy theories started because they were concerned that we would be more worthy than them. They believed in divinity on some level, and they themselves realized that the secret to our success was our good deeds, our chesed, our Torah way of life. And once our actions tipped off these strategists, they then schemed to further separate us from our tradition. And so all of these events go hand in hand. So our behavior signaled that we were prepared for a weakening decline of character and ethical living, and they sought to accelerate that. The slippery slope of our demise began as we turned towards a more antithetical, idolatrous, pagan Egyptian lifestyle. So the Egyptians began their version of the final solution with this legislation, as we read about, for new taxes that wouldn't give us the peace of mind to pursue our spiritual agenda. And they sought to make sure that we are a part of the pagan headquarters of the world that was the country of Egypt at that time, and thus be less worthy in terms of continuity, and that they would be more able to conquer us more readily. The fate of the Jewish people is one fate. We are a small people, a very interconnected people. Oftentimes we think of ourselves in these small little groups. We make up our own boxes, something that here at our shul we shun. We don't want to be in our own little box. We want to be part of one big family. So the choice is up to us. Should we not want to help each other and ensure a more inclusive, wholly committed, intact Jewish congregation and community, then our observance will collectively suffer due to that lack of inclusion. We'll be less worthy of hashgacha klalis, of Hashem overseeing the Am HaNivchar, Am Yisrael. As a whole, we won't be worthy of the redemption, just like this generation of this week's Parsha wasn't yet worthy. They didn't understand their interconnection, the secret of our survival. And when we strengthen our belief, our spiritual definition, our fealty to Torah, like the generation that left Mitzrayim, as we'll read about in the coming weeks, then Hashem will reach out to us as well. And as it is said, that the Almighty will reach out and gather us in. And when we look at the images on our screen and the turmoil in our country, we can only hope and pray and be invigorated, motivated to ask the Almighty and to pray for this world peace, for Mashiach to gather us in, to have a worldwide recognition of being equal under God, created in the image of God, of respecting one another. And we hope that when we read the Parsha and we see how our spiritual identity is tied to our destiny, so we hope to increase our efforts to make us and ourselves, our community, our society, a more worthy one. Thank you and have a great Shabbos.